Okay, we are still week 5, chapter 16, and we're beginning to build on each chapter. Each chapter is building on itself more and more now. Last chapter we were talking about contextualization, and we want the gospel to be communicated clearly in such a way that the people are going to hear it, understand it, and then be able to respond positively to it. Contextualization, great. How do we get to contextualization? We have to do cultural research. And essentially, we do cultural research to learn about and know our target people. This is not academic research, although there's a lot of good research to be found in reading. Lonely Planet books are excellent resources in studying a country or a people. The encyclopedia method. We can learn a lot of good facts there, but it's much more than that. It's relationship, and so a lot of research takes place with people, being among the people, which brings up many more points. We mentioned strategy coordinators in a previous lecture, and how strategy coordinators are developing strategy to reach an unreached people group. I know that there was a trend 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago now, 15 years or more, where you had non-resident strategy coordinators, and it was a very interesting concept. I mean, there's some areas where missionaries cannot live, and it's just a matter of traveling in and out. You're commuting to your people group. But at the same time, there are strategy coordinators that simply chose not to live among their people. And I can't be a judge of that. I can only say from the contextualization, cultural research standpoint that really being among the people is key in doing research, because so much of the research is relationships. It's not just knowing about our people, it is actually knowing our people. So in order to contextualize the gospel message and establish local churches, we must engage in cultural research. And this isn't just a matter of weeks or months. I mean, this is literally years. And not to be too cliche, but really it's a lifetime of learning as long as you serve that people. But there is no shortcut to knowing our people. There's no shortcut to cultural research. It's taking a lot of time. And that third point there, in doing cultural research, the missionary must ask good questions. I would add to that, we must ask a lot of questions, very detailed questions. Areas of research. Well, what areas are we looking at? Well, here's a whole list. They come right out of the chapter. Areas of research, geographical research. What is the landscape? Are we in a rural setting? Are we in an urban setting? If we're in a rural setting, are we in a desert plateau area? Or is it mountainous people? Are there rivers nearby? Lakes, large lakes, seas, things like that. But also, in thinking maybe in more urban things, highways. What are the major roads in the urban center? The highways going in and out. Bypasses. Is there a river that cuts through the city? I know that, for example, in Yangon, Myanmar, where we lived for a while, there was Yangon itself was actually surrounded on 3 sides by rivers, and the city grew over the rivers. But once you crossed the rivers, things changed. The people changed. Their lifestyles changed a lot. So we talk a lot about in urban missions, urban missiology, about barriers, urban barriers. In the more rural areas, you might have a river or a mountain that is a barrier. In a city, you might have a major highway, major buildings. Is there a university in the area? Those become barriers to people in the city. Boy, I wish we had time to talk a lot more about that, but we don't. But demographics tells you a lot. The demographic studies, the socioeconomic statuses of people, male versus female. Is it an aged population or is it a young population? What percentage of people go to university, graduate from university? What is the average education of the people? Studying the demographics tells us a lot. Cultural. We're looking there at holidays. We are looking at different festivals, perhaps. The different ways people relate to one another. Take Indian, the caste system. Now, the caste system could probably apply to many of these points, but it's a cultural thing. There is some demographic to that. There is political to that. There's socioeconomic to that. But certainly the cultural, spiritual, studying the religion of the people, understanding their religious beliefs and their religious practices actually gives us a lot of view of their worldview. It gives us a better view of their worldview. Because our religion really dictates, more than a lot of these others, how we see the world. Historical, what has been the history of the country, history, and how has that history affected the people? And again, we could look at the different the different British colonies, the different countries that were colonized by the British, such as India, Singapore, Malaysia, the history there with colonization and how they came out of the colonization, what is left over from being colonized, and how does that dictate today's life? Is it a war-torn area? Cambodia. Cambodia is a country where we look at history when we're looking at strategy, with the millions of people wiped out through genocide. Political. What's the political climate? When we were in Burma in the early days, it was still a harsh military junta. Things have changed somewhat, but being in a harsh military junta area, that political landscape really spoke into our strategy a lot. Lingual. Is it an oral people, or is it or are they literate? Is there a common language among people? Are there multiple dialects? What other languages do the people speak? Economic, are they poor? Are they rich? Are they middle class? We are going to approach the poor, the middle class, the upper class, each one of those differently. So those are all areas of research. And again, we cannot ask enough questions in each one of those areas. Two more questions to ask in our research. Is there previous knowledge of the gospel? Is there a remnant of Christianity in the country from before? Have they ever heard of the Bible? Have they ever heard of Jesus? Any Bible stories they might have heard? We want to know these things. Is there any previous knowledge of Bible or the gospel whatsoever? And if there is, what is their attitude toward the gospel? If their attitude is positive, great. We've got a wave to ride on. But if it's a negative attitude, then we have some repair work to do. In fact, we might need to change our language. We might need to change our approach in some way. So we need to understand not only their previous knowledge of the gospel, but what their attitude is towards that. And as we do all this research, then this research is going to lead us into our people group profile, which is going to lead us into more strategy development. And so, once again, areas of research, we cannot ask enough questions under each one of these. We have to ask good questions. We have to ask many questions. Okay, once again, we'll see you on the discussion board. If you have any questions about your people group profile and how that's going, please write me, spcarter@samford.edu. spcarter@samford.edu. Hit me by email. We can discuss this, bring it up on the discussion board. We can tackle it there in case more of you have some of the same questions. Have a good week, and we'll see you on the next round of lectures.